Right, hello, lads and lasses, and welcome back to Boys Down Under, where today we're going around the news, of course, and looking at some of the stories surrounding Celtic. Before we go any further, though, if you guys are enjoying the content and you want to help support the channel, the very best way to do so is to click that like button and click that subscribe button. But without further ado, let's get into it. So, a fixture clash. Now, while most of you in Scotland won't really give two shits about this, as an Aussie, I do. Now, that doesn't mean everyone won't care, but I know definitely some of you won't. Now, there is a fixture clash coming up that affects Celtic and the Scottish contingent of our players. So, as everyone is aware, Celtic travel down under in the near future. They come down to Sydney to play Sydney FC on the 17th of November and then Everton on the 20th of November. Now, something people might not be aware about now, if you're a non-Scotsman, is that Scotland announced an international friendly fixture with Turkey for the 16th of November, a day before Celtic's clash with Sydney FC. And yeah, an international friendly just before the World Cup begins. So, why? Well, they claim it is for preparations for the Euro 2024 qualifying campaign. That is absolute codswallop. That is BS. Why are you chucking an international friendly in just then and there? And with Celtic's have a host of World Cup players who will already be unavailable for the Sydney Super Cup, including Kyogo, Dyson Maida, Aaron Moy, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Josip Juranovic, potentially Rayo Hatate, potentially Matt O'Reilly, maybe even Jota. Jota has the slimmest of chances of getting into the Portuguese squad. The next worst thing would be to lose our Scottish contingent of players too. Because while Callum McGregor won't play regardless due to his injury, that still leaves an uncertainty surrounding Greg Taylor, Anthony Ralston, David Turnbull, potentially even Jamesy Forrest, and even to go as far as to say potentially even Stephen Welsh. So, looking at that, I don't know where the players' heads are at, but you'd like to think that they'd come down to Australia and play in these fixtures. Purely for the manager, purely because it is Ange's homecoming. You know, they can play in an international friendly whenever, but they can't come down to Australia and play whenever. That just doesn't work like that, you know. And while it is an exhibition match and it's meaningless, and so too is the international friendly, at least, like I said, it does bear some significance for Ange. And while I'm sure Ange won't be nudging them in either direction, he won't stand in their way with whatever decision they're willing to make, although maybe people at the club higher up may do so. And another factor I think that we can maybe consider is that in Australia, the end of November is the end of spring for us, naturally heading into summer straight after. And while we head into summer, Scotland head into a very wet and a very cold winter. Now, I can't really speak on the wet because most Aussies right now have a date with La Nina for about another month or so. And let me just say, I wouldn't go on a second date with La Nina at all. Anyways, if we do end up having no Scotsmen in the team for coming down here to Australia, well, it does leave us in a bit of a pickle. It leaves us with only one left back. We don't have any right backs. We have very limited midfielders as well. And yeah, we'd be in a bit of a pickle. We'd be in a bit of a pickle. So hopefully we get to see, you know, Greg Taylor, David Turnbull, Ralston come down to Australia. I want to see as many Celtic players as possible, of course, naturally. And yeah, well, just as well, because if we have the Scottish players, it just bolsters our squad a bit more. And because it'd be a bit embarrassing if we did lose to an A-League team, and then we want to beat Everton just to shut up all the Prem merchants who think Celtic couldn't cut it in the Prem. Anyways, moving on. Now, this second part of the video, it's a comment. It's a comment on this piece that I found online by Surav Mahanti. Now, I apologise if I've butchered that name. Now, he is an editor for the Celtic Boys, which is a online Celtic media coverage. I think most people will have read them. Anyways, now, he did an opinion piece stating why Celtic should bring back Victor Wanyama in January as his contract runs out with Montreal. Now, to sum up my view on this, plain and simple, no, we should not do that. Don't do it, Celtic. Wanyama, despite being, you know, such a great player for Celtic back in 2012 and also a really, really good player for Southampton in the Premier League, He's 31 now. Now, while Celtic do have, Aaron Mooy, who's 32, featuring regularly in the league, it is still completely unnecessary to bring back Wanyama. Now, firstly, we do have a Abildgaard in the squad, or how does he pronounce it? Abildgaard? I think it's that, Abildgaard in the squad. And while he has seen almost no game time so far, having him in the squad means signing Wanyama would be completely redundant. Not to mention, after the World Cup, Callum McGregor is going to be fit again. So when Callum McGregor's fit, that pushes Aaron Mooy out of the squad, and Aaron Mooy pushes Abildgaard further down the pecking order. And if we brought Wanyama in, he would be down there in like the fourth choice option. Because realistically, there is no reason to bring in Wanyama, regardless, even for sentimental purposes. You should never bring in a player for sentimental purposes, or because of the player he once was. Now, I'm sure if Wanyama was offered the choice, he would happily come back to Celtic. However, I happily don't want him here. Now, that is nothing against him as a player, but I don't think it suits the mould Andrew's looking for. I think that's a reason why we haven't seen Abildgaard feature too much, because, he doesn't boast the same passing game as someone like Aaron Mooy. And even if Abildgaard doesn't get any game time, and even if Victor Wanyama is completely match fit, playing regularly for Montreal, it ain't going to happen, and it shouldn't happen either. So that is my take on that. I kind of just, stabbed a whole bunch of holes into Mahunti's opinion piece. However, I do feel it was necessary to comment on that, because I saw it, I questioned it, I thought about it, and I realized how ridiculous the idea was anyways. Now, maybe that's an unpopular opinion, but for me, it just seems like a completely redundant signing and just wasted wages if we do. But nothing against Wanyama, nothing against him, because he was a great player back in the day. Anyways, just to end the video, apparently I saw today that reports were coming out that the founders of the Super League were wanting to bring Celtic and Rangers in. Now, seriously, how dumb do they think we are? While so many fans have called, for Celtic to move to the Premier League for a bigger challenge because Scottish football doesn't challenge them, I think it's completely ridiculous. If Celtic were to move to a Super League, it's a complete dream. No, not even a dream, because dreams are good. It's a nightmare. It's something fictional, but still absolutely horrible. Celtic Football Club is for the fans. Football is for the fans, and the Celtic fans are some of the best in the world. Now the Super League format, it will be interesting to see how that runs, because I believe next season's revamped Champions League format is also very similar to what the Super League was proposing. But the difference with the Champions League and the Super League is that the Champions League doesn't force the clubs to stop playing in their own domestic leagues, whereas the Super League just completely... It's just like a Champions League for good, for permanent Champions League. And that, let's be honest, that isn't too fun. It's not good for the fans. It's not good for anything. The only thing it's good for is a bit of a cash injection into the clubs. And I think most of the clubs who are rumoured to be joining or have been asked to join are pretty well off in finances, except maybe one special Glasgow club that isn't Celtic. But that is all from me. So if you guys did enjoy the video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, leave in the comments below your thoughts on players played for Scotland or Celtic in the Sydney Super Cup. Leave your thoughts on the Victor Wanyama piece. I'm actually very curious to see whether there's a divide on that, or whether it is something that the majority of supporters agree on. Regardless, until next time, hail, hail.